Hi everybody, welcome back to In the Kitchen with Delightful Donna. Today I'm going to make the two classic Mexican side dishes, refried beans and Spanish rice. Stay tuned for those recipes and some pro tips. Hi everyone, welcome back to In the Kitchen with Delightful Donna. So I'm going to get started making some beans, and I'm going to show you guys a really easy way to do that in the Instant Pot. This takes dry beans to soft, creamy beans in under an hour, and it's fantastic. So this is my new favorite way to make them. So let's get started. So I have 3 cups of beans here. You just take your dry beans, sort through them to take out the broken pieces. Make sure there's no rocks or anything, because sometimes that happens in dried beans. And there's no need to pre-soak. These are gonna go straight into the Instant Pot. So 3 cups of beans. I use 2 large cloves of garlic, 1 jalapeno, and I'm just gonna pop the stem end off of it. Maybe, there we go. Put that in there whole, just like that, and you'll see why later. And then half of a small onion. And then I'm gonna use some of this Knorr chicken bouillon. This adds a really good flavor to the beans. And then we're gonna add a little bit of some fat. So I have about a tablespoon. And then we're gonna add, listen, don't come for me people, but we're gonna add a tablespoon of lard. Some of you may not like lard, and that's okay, don't use it if you don't like it. You could put a little bit of vegetable oil, you could put a little bit of butter. If you don't wanna put oil at all, don't put it. I put it in because it gives the broth a more, velvety texture or mouthfeel. So that's all we're gonna put in there. Now, if you guys don't have all of this, listen, beans are very versatile. Put in whatever you like. If you don't want to use the Knorr chicken bouillon, don't use it. If you have beef, use that. You just want to put salt, go ahead. You do it however you guys like to do it, but this is a basic recipe for me. I will say, if I happen to have some salt pork, I would prefer to use salt pork. I don't have any today, so that's not going to stop me from making beans. I'll just make it a different way. But if you have salt pork, then don't put the lard and don't put the Knorr seasoning, because that's gonna act as your fat and your salt component. So with that said, then we're gonna put 6 cups of water in here. I know where that measurement is on my Instant Pot, but for you guys at home, you might wanna measure, so excuse the water sound. So now I have my water in, and I don't know if you guys can see down inside here. I don't know if the camera will pick it up or not. There's these measurements down on the side, and it says half and 2/3. So when I'm doing 3 cups of beans, I put the water to just above that half mark. So that's about 6 cups, but just in case you guys can see that. Okay, now we'll put it down in the Instant Pot. You don't have to stir it or anything. We're gonna put on our lid. Make sure it's set to seal. Manual pressure. And we're gonna put the timer up to 55 minutes. You can get beans done in 45 minutes in here, I'll tell you that. I like to put them at 55 because I'm gonna make these into refried beans later on today. So I want my beans very soft and honestly starting to fall apart. And that's why I'm doing 55 minutes. So we'll let this go for 55 minutes, and then we'll let the pressure naturally release after, which takes another 10 or 15 minutes. And then we'll be making some refried beans with it, and then something else to go along with that. Okay, now we're gonna make some rice to go along with those beans that we're gonna refry here in a little bit. So I'm just warming up my pan. When you're making rice, you wanna use a shallow pan for best results. It makes it cook a lot more evenly and make sure that you don't have hard rice on the top and mushy rice on the bottom. I like this one personally. This is a Calphalon pan I bought on Amazon for like $30. It's not expensive, but it's fantastic. And I also like that it has a glass lid because I can see inside when it's cooking. Okay, our pan's heated up. I'm gonna use about a tablespoon of oil. I'm using avocado oil. It's a nice and light oil, lets the flavor of the food come through. It doesn't bog it down with oil taste. We'll let that heat up a little bit. I have a 1.5 cups of long grain rice. We'll put that in. And stir that around. You just want to get it evenly coated with the oil if you can. We're going to be browning the rice. I shouldn't say browning. We're gonna be toasting the rice. It doesn't really get brown. It just gets a little toasty color. Everyone, I shouldn't say everyone. All the families that I know have a special recipe for Spanish rice. This is the recipe that our family likes, but you know, some people make it differently and that's okay. But the basic premise is the same. Toast your rice, put in your seasonings, put some liquid in it, let it cook. So this is gonna take about 4 or 5 minutes for it to get toasted. Now that we've coated most of the rice with the oil, we're gonna add our aromatics. So this is gonna be half of a chopped yellow onion and 2 cloves of minced garlic. And we wanna let that start cooking down with the rice and get golden and soft. You can hear it sizzling, so it's starting to go now. Now the rice is starting to get toasted. If you see, it's getting kind of opaque. It's not as translucent. And that's when you know it's getting toasted. I don't get mine too brown because I'm always afraid it's gonna burn, and nobody wants burned rice. That doesn't taste nice. So at this point, I'm gonna start adding in my spices. It's very simple. I use the Knorr seasoning powder. It's tomato and chicken flavored together, and that's what makes the rice kind of red. And you guys probably think I have this a lot. This is a big bucket. You're right, it is, because I use it a lot. I use it in a lot of my cooking. So I'm gonna do about 4 tablespoons. So that's about 2 or 3, and there we go. I just kind of eyeball it, really, if I'm being honest. This right here is kind of a secret weapon, I guess. This is Sazon Goya, and it's cilantro and achiote flavor. And achiote is normally a paste, and it's made from the annatto seeds. And it just adds a little something special to the rice. I think it gives it kind of a little bit of a zing. And I just put 1 packet in there. And then I like to stir my spices in before I put any liquid in, so that I make sure that it gets all over the rice, so you don't have any spots that don't have seasoning. That's just a personal preference, though. I know that my husband's grandmother didn't do it this way, but that's the way I like it. Okay, now we're gonna put the liquid in. I have 3 cups of water already measured out. So when you're making rice, you wanna use double the liquid of the amount of rice that you use. That's a lot of sizzle. Okay, I'll just stir that around a little bit. And at this point, this is where you would taste for seasoning to make sure that you have enough of the spices in there. Tastes good. Delightful. Okay, so we're gonna bring this up to a boil, and once it starts boiling on the whole thing, then we're gonna put the lid on. Alrighty, put the lid on. We're gonna turn it down to a simmer and cook this for 25 minutes. After 25 minutes, we're gonna turn the flame off and just let it sit without lifting the lid. An important thing when making rice, don't lift the lid. Rice cooks by steam, so every time you lift that lid, you're letting out the steam, and so you're gonna increase your cooking time. If you leave it on, it will cook perfectly. Just make sure that your flame is all the way down to low. Okay, the beans are cooked. As you can see, they've been sitting for 25 minutes, which was a little longer than we had anticipated, but we'll let the rest of the steam out. All right, so you can see that the beans are still bubbling up in here, but this is what it looks like when it's done. So you see the pieces of onion in there. This is all gonna add flavor when we refry the beans. And same with this jalapeno, because we're gonna put it in the skillet. Look at that. And that's what they look like. And I don't know about you guys, but for me, being able to cook fresh homemade beans from dried beans in under an hour is amazing, because I used to cook them all day in a crock pot or cook them on the stove for 3 or 4 hours. And you know, I used to use a pressure cooker a long time ago, like a stovetop pressure cooker, which is the way that my husband's grandmother taught me to make them originally. But that's a little bit scary and intimidating for some people. So this electric pressure cooker is so much easier, and you can walk away and kind of forget about it, which is why I love it. Okay, so now we've pulled some of the beans out of that Instant Pot, and we're gonna fry them in a cast iron pan. So I do have some of the liquid. I don't know if you guys can see that. There's not a lot, but there is some. It's gonna make the beans very creamy, and then as we cook them down, they will get a little bit thicker. So I'm gonna turn my pan on to high heat. We want this really hot. And I'm gonna warn you now, this is gonna make a little bit of a mess right in the beginning, so don't freak out. Get my masher ready. All right, so I'm heating up my pan. I wanna make sure it's really hot before I add my oil in. I'm actually gonna use lard. Sorry guys, I'm using lard again, twice in the same recipe, but it just makes the beans so good. So I'm using probably a couple tablespoons. I don't know, this is a tablespoon, but kind of heaping over. And we'll see if that's enough. Should be. Pro tip, I keep my lard in a plastic container, and it keeps it from getting all messy because it comes in that little box, and every time you open it, it gets more and more messy. So what I do is I buy the little box, and it has this wax paper around it. So I cut off the top of it and then put it in this container. It fits perfect. That little box that you get at the store fits perfect in this container. And then it's not messy when I use it. All right, so we're just gonna get this lard to melt down. And hey, just a little secret for you guys. If you're interested what's in this red pot back here, if you guys wanna know what's in there, stay tuned for the next video. Okay, the lard is melted down and it's sizzling, you can tell. So this is where the mess comes in, so sorry if I splashed the camera. We're gonna pour the beans, juice and all, just like that. I told you it makes a mess, I wasn't lying. It'll calm down here in just a second. That's the juice mixing with the oil. I know, not super safe, but it's the only way to do it, you guys, and it tastes great. Let me just clean up my mess a little bit. I'm weird about my kitchen, it has to stay clean. Okay, so those are heated sufficiently. Now you can do this with beans that you've made the prior day, or say you made them, you know, maybe you made them on the weekend and you want to have refried beans during the week for dinner. Then you can just put them in the refrigerator whole in their juice, and then you can put them in the cast iron pan like this the day you want to refry them, and bring them up to temperature before you start to smash them, because trust me, if you try to smash them when they're cold, it's really hard. So now I'm just gonna I'm using a potato masher, and I'm just gonna go through the pan and mash them up. And you guys can see that I started mashing that jalapeno. I don't know if you can tell right here. I started mashing, I'm just mashing it right into the beans. There's pieces of the onion in here, there's pieces of the garlic in here. That's what's gonna give our beans the flavor. All right, so I'm just gonna keep smashing away. It doesn't take too long. And you get them to the consistency you like. We like ours with a little bit chunky, so there's still like some whole beans in it. Some people like them really, really smooth, and if that's you and your family, you could use an immersion blender and blend them right in the pan. Or you could take them out and put them in a blender too, I guess. I've never done that, but I guess you could. All right, so I'm just stirring to see if I have lumps. How many lumps I have, I should say, because I do want some. And I'm gonna turn my pan down just a little bit because it's burning my hand on the outside. All right, so you see how they're sizzling. Now you guys, I have a really seasoned, well-seasoned cast iron pan here. If your cast iron is not seasoned, they may stick a little bit, so don't freak out about that either. Not a big deal, it comes off easily when you wash it, but my pan is so well seasoned. You can see when I pull it away that they don't stick to the sides. It comes clean on the bottom. That's because my pan is really well seasoned. These pans are, gosh, at least 25 years old. Okay, so that's about where we like them, the consistency. I'm gonna turn the heat down just a little bit more. I'm gonna get all the beans off of this masher. And then we're gonna add the really good part. All right, I don't like to waste, so I'm gonna get it as much off as I can. Okay, we'll set that aside. And now we're gonna add some cheese. I like Monterey Jack in my beans. You can use any kind of cheese there. I know they have that Mexican blend at the store also. That would be really good in this. Some people just use cheddar. Use whatever your family likes. This is a 2-cup bag. Sure, why not? We like them really cheesy, guys. All right, and we're just gonna incorporate that cheese and let it melt. You can still see those chunks of jalapeno in there, and these look so good. I can't wait to eat them. And the more you cook these, the more you let them fry in this pan at a somewhat of a high heat, medium-high heat, they will cook down and get a little thicker, like I said. If they cool down and they're too thick for you, you could add a little bit of the bean liquid from cooking them in that Instant Pot. You could add some milk, which will keep them creamy. You could add some chicken stock, really any liquid. You could add water, but that's kind of boring. But any liquid. All right, don't those look delightful, you guys? All right, we'll be plating these in just a minute. Okay, so here we have the refried beans that we made and the Spanish rice. They're steaming hot still, but they look so good. So I'm just gonna take a little taste of both of them. You have the rice. You see the rice is nice and moist. It didn't dry out. Delightful, guys. It has a really, really nice, almost rich tomato-y flavor, but it's not overpowering. It's not over salty. The rice is tender. It's still moist. It's not dried out. It's really, really good. Let's taste these beans. You guys can kind of see, I don't know if the camera can get close enough, but you can see there's pieces of jalapeno in there still. Kind of big pieces. It's so good, and they're so cheesy. Ooh, they're really hot. Those are so good. And they're so easy, you guys. They're so creamy. They're really delicious. Beans are so versatile. You can do so many things with the refried beans. Make tostadas, just eat them on the side, maybe with your tacos, enchiladas. They're so delicious. They're so easy to make, and they're very inexpensive. This is something that I brought my kids up on. Listen, if you're struggling out there and you don't have a lot to feed your family, beans and rice is so inexpensive, and it's very filling, and it's very easy to make. I hope you liked my recipes today. Stay tuned for more videos. Make sure that you like me, follow me on Instagram on cooking_with DD. Like, follow, share, hit the notification bell on the YouTube channel, In the Kitchen with Delightful Donna. Thanks guys for watching. Bye.